Okay, welcome to our Erev Shabbat Friday Parashat class. Parashat Vayesheb, the undertones of Yosef as-Sadiq. In the storyline, Parashat line that covers Yosef's life, which, of course, he was born already a couple of parashiot ago, but did not play a role into this parasha, and then consecutively, Vayesheb, Mukhes, Vayigash, Vayehi, he is the highlight, he's the star of the show. And throughout this storyline, as is in general with the entire Torah, but I believe especially with Yosef, there's an undertone. There is what we call, in the four levels of studying and understanding Torah, a remez level, an indirect, alluding, hinting a message beneath the surface, beneath the pshat, beneath the straightforward text that is being told to us, A, about Yosef, and B, about what he represents. And so what I'd like to do is give two examples, one main and a secondary example of that, in this first highlighted Yosef Parashat Vayeshev, and try to discover what that means in terms of the actual bigger picture for Am Yisrael, and maybe not such a bright one in terms of this particular message. So I want to look at an episode, and we'll look at the episode first in its simplicity, and then on the remez, the undertone, the hinting level. Then we'll speak about the broader message. So there is a scene in the parasha that seems to be superfluous at best, and it more extremely possibly mysterious. It is, of course, where Yosef is back at home and he's taking care of things. He's with his father. He's one of the youngest of the brothers. Binyamin is really a child at this point. Yosef, 17 years old. And he didn't go on the business trip with the rest of the sons, as they are shepherds, to take care of the family business and the flocks, etc. And at some point, Yaakov Avinu had an idea, and he asked Yosef, and we can just guess that they were the brothers were working at a further distance in another city, which they were in another city. Perhaps it's a longer term business trip. Maybe they weren't returning home for some days or weeks. And he asked Yosef to please check on the brothers. Very simply, he told them, how are they doing? How's business? Right? And then please retrieve to me your report after you observe your findings. And it says, and he sent him from the depths, literally the depths of the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. Of course, right there, the Hachamim pick up on the fact that Hebron is a higher altitude area, not in a valley. And therefore, what does that mean? Emek Hebron. And then comes the more enigmatic part of this story. So he starts to go, and his father's charge, his father's instructions. Vayimsa'ehu ish, v'hineh to'eh basadeh. And Ish finds him. Probably not coincidentally, the term used for his father Yaakov in last week's Parashat Vayishlach, where Vayabek Ish Amo Adalot Hashar, we struggled with this quote unquote Ish until dawn, who turned out to be a malach. And here also is this anonymous Ish. And Ish finds him, and he's To'eh Basadeh. He's wandering, perhaps lost in the field somewhere. Difficult when you're not familiar with surroundings and there's no street signs or compasses or anything else to guide you to know where you're going. But we don't know who this person is. And he said, what are you looking for? What would you like? I want to find my brothers. Please tell me where they are shepherding. Where are they taking care of the sheep and carrying on their business affairs? Now, why in the world would Yosef think that these people know who his brothers are, right? He hasn't introduced himself. Maybe he has. Has he identified the brothers? Maybe he has. But he's out of town already. It's a random ish. He says, can you tell me where my brothers are? So why would he even have an inclination that this person has some insight into that? And it turns out, that he answers, and we'll see in the upcoming pasuk. How in the world does this person know where the brothers are? They left, and here's another very mysterious phrase. They traveled from this. That's not standard phraseology. What would you normally say? They left. They traveled from this, literally. Because I heard them say, let's go to Dotan. Now, okay, let's say Yosef happened to encounter a nosy person that listens into other people's conversations, right? Be that as it may, why did this Ish, who overheard a group of men saying, hey guys, let's go to Dotan, know who they were and identify them with Yosef? Now you can just say this guy is intelligent, he put 2 and 2 together. And of course, you could say he wasn't an ordinary old Ish. But the Torah is keeping things very, very vague. And then finally, Vayelech Yosef achareha vayimsehem b'Dotan. He took the man's guidance and he found his brothers in the next town, indeed in Dotan. And that's where the absolutely tragic story of Yosef and his brothers begin. But besides the vagueness of this story, can someone please tell me why the Torah even has to insert this in the text? I mean, again, I've said it over and over again in our past classes. We only get small glimpses of the lives of our Torah heroes and only inklings of and episodes of the history that's being presented to us from Abraham till the end of the book, the end of the good book, Moshe Rabbeinu, before they go to Israel. This episode needs to take up 3 Pesukim. There's nothing significant that comes from it. It doesn't seem so. So let's just analyze it in terms of pshat. There is a straightforward meaning in terms of some significance that we can glean from it. And we can say certainly that this is a praise to Yosef. First, the pasuk that I didn't mention prior to this group of pesukim is when Yosef, Yaakov first summons Joseph, and he said that your brothers are shepherding in Shechem, let me send you. And he said, Hineni. So Hineni doesn't just mean I'm here. Obviously, we're speaking right now. I know you're here. Hineni means I'm prepared for a task. And from Yosef's behalf, that was something that was not just respectful, but that was certainly, a very difficult, proper but difficult gesture to make. Because the last thing he wants to do right now, knowing the friction between him and his brothers, at least some of them, is to be alone with them out of town, basically, isolated. And he says, Father, Hineni, if you think it's the right thing to do, I'm there. And then, as he's going, when Yosef reached some obstacle in the road, and here he's honestly completely lost, it would have been reasonable for him to come back and say, Dad, I was on board, I left, I was going to do it efficiently, exactly as you said. I was, doing it, following orders precisely, and then I just got completely lost. I had no idea where I was. And, I tried my best, but what can I do? He could have really used that. It wasn't even a rationalization. It was real. He got lost. Instead, he persevered and he went out of his way to find somebody and tried to research where his brothers might be, which is really unrealistic even. And he did it, and he found them. So you can say that this small group of Pesukim is a great praise to Yosef, in that he was respectful, he was obedient, he manned up, so to speak, and did the right thing despite the fact that it was disadvantageous to him, and he had a great excuse to stop, but he didn't. We can look at the surface level of the text that way as being a significant message. Here is what I believe, and I've expressed this in the past years in this parasha in various classes, that I believe is a very powerful level of remez, of hint, that is the undertone of these pesukim. And we can almost reread them with different spectacles, through a different prism, and go back and say, well, Yosef went, and someone found him. And by the way, Me'amek Hebron, which is that inappropriate term, the valley of Hebron, which is really a more ascended height of Hebron, that she quotes the Midrash. Me'amek means from the deep advice and foresight and prophecy of the father buried in Hebron, Abraham Abinu, knew about Brit Ben Hebetarim. He was privy to the fact that something happened that had to happen in the family that would eventually send them down to Mitzrayim, and that Yaakov Abinu had almost some type of subliminal impetus to send him based on his grandfather Abraham's prophecy that, this trip might be one that is a negative one that brings us down to Messiah. In any case, so picking up on that hint, that's very much a hint. We have the pasuk that tells us, a person finds. Now, we're going to assume, and some Mefarshim like the Ramban say, that this wasn't an ish, he was a malach. And again, we counted that term in last week's parasha. And that would mean he's a messenger of God, to really make sure that this thing goes in the path that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it to go in. And what does this ish find him doing? It finds him being to'eh basadeh. To'eh basadeh with a taf, not a tet. A taf, which means he's wandering, which means he's lost. He's lost in the field. This very much may depict Yosef Asadi in this juncture of his life. He's wandering. He's alone. He's a pariah. He's a genius, sometimes not fully expressing himself with foresight and with complete maturity, very much a harebrained genius that just needs to express and vent what he believes are messages and things he's picking up upon. And that makes him somewhat of a pariah. And he's an isolated guy, and he feels hated on top of that. He feels it, whether it's his fault or not, but he feels like he is alone, not just socially, he's alone in his beliefs, because he really has deep-rooted understandings of life. He's trying to share them. It's coming out the wrong way. And he feels himself to be completely isolated. He has different ideas. He's to'eh basadeh. He's wandering. This is a young man, 17. And this ish finds him. And this ish says, Ma tevakesh. Young man, you look like you're completely lost. Maybe you want to sit down and tell me, what are you looking for in life? What's your goals? Maybe we can steer you to some direction that'll get you focused back on track. And what's his answer? He says, really very simple. Et ahai anochi mevakesh. I'm not as important to me to write my dictatorial thesis right now and get my doctorate, or I will receive my semicha as chief rabbi of the area. I'd rather just find my brothers. You know what I want? I want companionship. I want acceptance. I want to fit in. I want to be understood. I don't want to be an isolated outsider. Et ahai anochi mevakesh. Really, it's very simple. He says what I want. And the unfortunate answer by this ish, if he is in indeed a shaliach of Hashem, this would go very appropriately, that he's fit to answer this question. And it's a subliminal answer he gave him, subliminal message in the answer, rather. And he asked him, Hagidina li elohim ra'im, where are they? Where are they holding, so to speak? Do I have a chance? And he says, I'm sorry, young man. Nasi'u mizeh. They've traveled from this. Right now, it doesn't look good. They've already, they've taken it to another stage where I don't think right now you're very likely to find them, so to speak. And meaning being accepted is not really something that you should anticipate so much right now. And therefore, it doesn't look great. So now if you just move back a little bit, but really that's the hinting level that we're talking about, where there's a dual answer. One is the simple answer. They left here and they traveled to Dotan. And the other one is this message implanted, and let's say it's the Malach, according to the Ramban, implanting in the mind of Yosef. Did he get that message or not? I don't know. Maybe he only reflect on it back years later. But if you look at what the Ramban tells us, that this is a Malach, this is really remarkable. The Kadosh Baruch Hu sends this Malach to catch Yosef, and really to tell us, make no mistake about it, this event that seemed like vague, unnecessary, superfluous group of Pesukim, this is very much part of the big story of exile and redemption. This is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's no coincidence over here. He's manipulating the circumstances to the extent that Yosef is steered in the wrong direction, so to speak, in terms of the storyline and his life and his fate, the wrong direction, so that indeed, based on the Emek Hebron, the deep prophecy to the one buried in Hebron, Abraham, that he will go down to the sign. And this episode will in fact ensue, the tragedy will happen, and the exile will follow subsequently. Look how not only do we see this remez level, this hinting undertone of messages back and forth to Yosef, but you see the necessity of the episode as almost a link here where Hashem is showing us all of this was meant to happen. And I manipulated these circumstances until I weaved you from Israel to Egypt. So a powerful necessity. Now, I told you this has something to say about us and our future. Unfortunately, it does, but it's our future in exile. And really, of all the characters that we have in Torah, Yosef is the Jew of the exile. Now, Yaakov experienced being exiled and then redeemed again. But Yosef lived 93 out of 110 years of his life in exile, in a foreign land, right? He depicts what does it mean to survive in exile. And here, this message could be a difficult one for Am Yisrael in Galut, in exile. And you can reflect back on these words. We're to'eh basadeh. We're wandering, whether it's by choice, because we moved from this continent or country to the next, whether it's without any options because of persecution and oppression, etc. We've been to'eh basadeh for millennia now, wandering over the face of this earth. And when asked what we want, what do you want? What do you want? I want? Et ahai anuchi mevakesh. I want my beloved one. I'm trying to get back to God and to the place He chose for me. Of course, you know what I want. I need to be back where I belong. That's the message Am Yisrael has been screaming out for thousands of years. And unfortunately, at least for now, the answer to us has been Nasi'u mizeh. He's traveled, God has traveled, and your current place at home is not available now. I'm sorry. And that's it's a little harsh, right, for us to swallow. But it's a true and accurate hint. In the undertone of Yosef, you have also this possible national undertone that tells us a little bit of our fate in this long, difficult exile. I find a hint to this in the book of Shir HaShirim, where it says, Patahti ani l'lodi v'lodi hamak avar, which Rashi says it means he's revealed and hidden. Nafshi yasa'av dabero, I'm so affected when he speaks, v'kashtihu v'lo mesatihu, kerati v'lo anani, tevakesh, I've sought him out. I've searched for him. I didn't find him. Kerati, I called him, lo anani, he didn't answer me. That's us, calling out, wondering, where are you? I need you. And we keep wandering. That is the main episode that I want to demonstrate in terms of how that undertone plays out. But there's one more, and that is at the end of the Parashat. And we'll go through this one quickly. We know, of course, house of Potiphar, success. Then he gets set up. Then he gets thrown out. Then the prison. Again, he rises to success. A couple of years there, interprets the dreams. And at the end, with this successful seeming interpretation of the dream of the butler, in his pitaron, in his interpretation, he makes a play for himself. He makes a plug for himself. And he says, this has been a rough go for me. And, it's not fair. And I'm going to ask you, Kim Zechartani Yetecha, if you can just remember when you do make it out, because based on my prediction, you will make it out very shortly. Like I did kindness for you, little reciprocity here. His please mention to me, put the good word in for me. Get me out of this house or this prison or this terrible predicament. I was stolen to begin with. I was kidnapped. I was sold. I did nothing here that they put me in this prison. I'm innocent. I'm being taken advantage of. Save me, help me. Of course, Hazit Yosef, right? And this is a true plea. He really did nothing wrong. But I will say here and jump now to the national hint that this very much is the plea of Am Yisrael. As we say, V'hosetani min habayit hazeh, get us out of here. We're in this predicament. We're stuck in this never-ending house of horrors where there's no way out. It's like a maze. We cannot find our way out of it. Just get us out, because you know what? We were put, Babor Hazeh, we didn't do anything. Like, I know I deserve to be exiled because of my sins, and God burnt my house and threw me out, and he ousted me from my home. Okay, guilty as charged. But all these centuries and this millennia, country to country, what did I do? They're oppressing me. I don't see a reason for it. Let this vicious cycle end already. This is us screaming out. The national undertone of these Pesukim symbolized by the man of exile, the man of Galut, who calls out to be saved as well. And I'll just end. Hashem's response to me is not in the Torah to this undertone. It's way further on in the prophet Yirmiyah when we read on Rosh Hashanah, where Hashem says, "Zacharti lach hesed ne'orayich." Don't worry, I remember how you stuck with me as a child, you nation Israel. And I will remember. I do. Even though Yosef, the person he asked to remember, really forgot. They forget us in Galut all the time. But Hashem said, I won't forget how you were loyal to me in the early days and how I chose you as a nation. Don't worry. I want to end a more consoling note, a beautiful midrash that I found, Bereshit Rabbah, that is based on this pasuk and the very message that we're discovering in the lower layers of these Pesukim. So Sar HaMashkim forgot. And the Midrash says, and the last words of the Parashat tragically is Lo Zachar HaMashkim et Yosef Vayishkahehu. Seems superfluous. He didn't remember and he forgot. Why that addition? Midrash is sensitive to that. And Midrash says, he forgot you. That's really sounds painful and permanent, right? To us. He forgot you. I'll never forget you. And he goes on to prove, the Midrash brings examples. Abraham and Sarah, were they not waiting until they were older to finally have a son? I didn't forget. Yaakov Abinu, he passed over the Jordan with the stick and he asked for protection, promised. I didn't forget that promise I made him. No, I didn't. I was reliable. And in fact, Yosef, with all the sarot that befell upon him, did I forget him? I extricated him from that board and from that predicament of life. And I exalted him to the highest levels, at least of prosperity and power in his lifetime. So do you think I'll forget you? No, says the Midrash. They forgot, he forgot, they always forget. I'll never forget, says Hashem. So we see just a powerful level of remez, of hinting in our parasha, but so especially regarding Yosef do we see this. And I believe, because with Yosef, the undertones of his life are also the undertones of our lives here in this long exile. And we need to feel those undertones because we need, on the back end, the response of them, to feel the response of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the comfort of him, knowing that the difficulty was and is, but will not be for so long. Amen. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.